Hi, I wanted to show a couple of options that we have now for getting data from other sequencers into Xlights in various types of forms. Some forms are not editable, others are, but I just wanted to kind of present a bunch of options for you so you can kind of make a choice as far as what is the best option for you. Um, Most of my sequences that I've done in the past were done in HLS. HLS is a great sequencer, but for me, I wanted something more all in one place where I can do my RGB stuff with all the various pixel effects and everything all in kind of one spot. So one of my goals for this year was trying to get more of my HLS data into Xlights so that I can kind of do the editing and sequencing in one spot. So to start off with, I kind of have things preloaded with this is what does the fox say? Bunch of my various stuff that I have as part of my display. You can kind of see in my preview I have everything kind of laid out, but for the sequencer, these are just things here, and I can expand things out. And right now there's no data at all. It's pretty much just empty, and I had chosen the various parts. So the first way of getting information from another sequencer into Xlights would be to use a data layer. So we can go into sequence settings, you can hit data layer, you can import a data layer, and I can choose my HLSI data file. Pretty much any of the different forms that we have, LMS for lore, Vixen things, anything that we can kind of convert into an F-sequence file can generally be used for a data layer. So I click on OK. Now we don't need to do that. And then let it wait a while. It's doing a lot of conversion. It's going through, I have like about 4,000 channels, so it's going to go through about 4,000 channels to figure out exactly how to display everything. Um, does the conversion. Let's see, this should take a few more seconds, I think. There we go. Number of channels, 4,983. And now, if I expand out, we still don't have anything because we haven't rendered it. So we hit the render button, and now you can kind of see the data is there. And if I zoom in, you can kind of see uh, everything there. Everything is there. You have all the ramps and stuff. Now these aren't editable effects. These are just pure data that's on the data layer underneath. So when we render, we generally render our effects, and then there's a kind of a blending capabilities between what we render and any data layers that you have. Um, so yeah, this works. You can kind of overlay your effects here. Like if you want some stuff here, you can kind of like select the area and put an on effect or something. You can stick effects wherever you want. Um, but it's all kind of layered. The other thing, one thing that we've added recently is you can actually right click on a node. So let's say take the mouth middle or something here. And you can convert to effect. This kind of goes through and takes a look at each effect on that node and figures out if it's an on, like these are all on effects. We can do ramp ups, ramp downs, various color blending. Now these are effects that you can then edit. So if you decide to move to make this effect longer, we can kind of make it longer. Now, because whenever you make a change, we're only rendering the Nutcracker stuff, not any of the data layers, you're not going to see everything until you kind of hit render again, and we can reblend um, with what was there. You can also move it, and again, you're going to have things disappear. But also keep in mind that it doesn't change the underlying uh, data layer. So you, when you come back, it's the data is still there because it's still in the data layer. But you have the effects. So if you then kind of go through, you can and convert all of your nodes to effects this way. You could then remove the data layer, and you'd basically end up with the various effects. So that's one way of doing it. Kind of slow because if you have a lot of nodes, you kind of have to go through and hit convert to effect on every single node. Uh, Kind of obnoxious, would take a little while. So we have other better options now. So let me just reload my sequence. And we should be back to being empty. Yep. So what other options do we have? We now have this import option, so we can import effects. And from here, we can import currently Superstar files, LMS files, your lore sequences, you can convert Vixen files and HLS IData files. So I'm going to grab my HLS IData file, which is my export from HLS. Open it, and we have this new dialog that comes up. Here you would kind of go through the stuff that you have in your sequence, so and stuff that you want to import effects for. So I want to import some stuff from my singing snowman, add model, my singing tree, singing tree 2, and as you see, as I'm hitting the add model, we're populating the grid with the various options. So if you as to where you can import data, and then you would go through here and select what did it find in either like the Vixen or HLS or whatever you have, and you would just select it, and it didn't go that time. So you would kind of go through each channel that you want to import, figure out the right channel in whatever it is that you're loading the data from, and kind of go through one at a time. Doing that once would be fine, but if you're going to do like 10 or 15 sequences, that's going to take a long time. So once you get it done once, I would suggest saving it, and then you can load the mapping. I already have my mapping already predefined, so I can load my mapping, and you can kind of see I have the singing snowman, the trees, singing trees, I have my candy canes mapped, I have my bush nets, my floodlights, various yard things, and the icicles and stuff. And they're all kind of predefined. So you don't have to do all this mapping once if you're importing a bunch of different sequences. This color column is used in only a couple of places. The general places, and I'm going to come back to that in just a minute, but I just want to point out that it is there, so that if what you're importing is not an RGB effect and is going on to an RGB strand, you can specify which color you want to use for that import, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So then hit OK, give it a couple seconds, and you'll see we got a lot of effects that just kind of came in. Not rendered yet. These are just the effects. So then if we click on our render button and let it go for a second, they're all there. And if we play them, you can kind of see him. He's singing along, stuff like that. So they're there. So that's a good start. That gets most of my stuff. But I'm going to go back and talk about the color thing again. So we are going to bring in the LMS file for this, because I want some of the stars stuff for my star. Give it a second. So we're going to handle the star. And here, in lore, that's a 6-channel star, like 6-tier star. I only have 3 tiers, so I am going to grab the star level 1 for the outer. Now this is the color that lore says it is. I don't want it going onto my RGB star in that color, so I probably going to want it just to be white. So I'll just bring it up and set it to white. Then I go down to the middle, and we'll do star 3. Again, I don't like that color. Maybe I'll do... yeah, I'll just keep them white for now. And then my inner strand will do 5. And again, we'll make it white. And then hit OK. And now my star should have effects on those layers. And if we render it, you'll see it fill in. So it does a lot of ramps. So I have data there. So that's how we can get kind of individual channels, and you do a little bit of futzing with the mapping, and it may take a little while, but you can get most of your data in as editable effects. Now, doing things like a megatree with 600 nodes is going to take a while if you do that. I'm going to save this because I'm going to come back to this state in a minute because I'm going to show you two different ways of getting megatree data in. Actually, so we'll save that, and it's done. Now, the first way we can get data for a megatree is to import like your HLS data or your Vixen or your LMS file. And we can bring up the same dialog, we can put our megatree, and you kind of could go through here node by node and find the right node and map it. I don't recommend it. For 600 nodes, it's going to take a while. So we have the ability to actually map by strand, and we kind of do some detections to figure out where the strands, or if you're doing an LMS file, where the CCRs are. So you can kind of select just those. So we can kind of do, for me, it's Megatree S001 is the first strand. Go right down and select them. You can ignore the colors because we're doing RGB to RGB. Again, you can, if you have a mapping already set for these things, which I do, you can hit load that, and it's all pre-populated, and then hit OK. Now this is going to take quite a while because what it's doing is it's going through 600 nodes or 1800 channels, importing the data, examining each channel or each node for the effects, whether it's a color, like a kind of like a color wash or an on or a ramp up or down. So it takes a little while to do this. It's also generating a lot of effects. For these types of effects, these types of sequences that you get from like holidaysequences.com or something like that, they're very complex. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it takes a little while to import all that. So you can kind of see, even with my clicking, it took about 90 seconds. And if you expand out, you'll see on each node there's a bunch of effects. Again, not rendered yet because we don't render immediately upon import. And if we hit render all, it's going to take a while because we have 600 nodes with lots of effects to render. It takes a while. And you can kind of start, as I kind of start scrolling through here, you can kind of see it. It's not rendered out here yet. Now it is. But it is progressing. It's going to have all the data there. This is all effects that you can kind of go through and click on, and so if you want to change something in here, you can change the length, you can change the colors, or whatever you need to do to finish your sequence. And it's still not done. So this is one way you can get data into Xlights, into editable effects. But like I said, if you're not planning on doing a lot of editing on this stuff, you might be better off doing a data layer than this method, because every time you save, it's going to be sitting here for however long this is going to take rendering this. So it took 67 seconds to render 600 nodes worth of lots of data. But if you, just to prove that it works, so you can kind of click on things and you kind of see everything running. And the whole thing is running and it's kind of working. So all your data is there and works. That said, that's kind of slow to do rendering and all that stuff. So if you actually have the Superstar format, I would recommend importing that instead. So I'm going to go back to what we had before without all of this stuff. So if you look again, we're empty on the Megatree. Go back to import effects, and this time we're going to choose the Superstar file. Do the various things you need to set there. Click OK. If there's any images in there, you're going to need to specify a place to save the images. I'll just put them there for now. And give it a little while. It's actually relatively quick. The Superstar import's a lot quicker because you're doing a lot less examining of stuff. And if you kind of see, we have the morphs, we have picture effects. There are other effects in here. I think these are just, that's a morph too. Um, and as you render, you can kind of see we got the data in here as well. So the advantage here being you have a lot fewer effects, because a morph in here is one effect, whereas in the other way of importing it via a node base, this is one effect as opposed to 600 effects during that time frame, or hundreds of effects. It renders a lot quick. So if we hit render, it's done in 2 seconds as opposed to about 67 seconds. So it's a lot quicker if you have the Superstar file. But it should be relatively equivalent. So again, we can kind of start things, and all that data from Superstar is in. So this is pretty much most of the stuff that I have imported in from HLS. We have my candy. These are candy canes actually, but I only have them as a line in my preview for now. Various yard things. Again, I'm just using dots for now. My bush nets and the star that I pulled in, the tree stuff that I pulled in. That's all I had basically done in HLS. The rest of my sequence I had done, like the arches and stuff I had done previously in Xlights. I just need to pull them in. But like I said, this is a kind of a get you started on some of the various options for how to import your information from other sequencers into Xlights. Like I said, right now it's Vixen files, HLS files, and LMS files. I don't know if anybody has anything else that they need. We could probably support just sub-channels out of like a F-sequence or something like that. But these are the ones; those are the three that I thought were most important, and I actually have examples of that I could actually test with, which is always a help. So. Anyway, hope this helps, and I'll get this uploaded. Thanks.